to the Dabble Den with your hosts, Tori Snyder, Dan Brown, and Danny Castro. All right, you're back in the Dabble Den. Awesome to have you back. Super excited for today's episode. So, as we've well established, we're all con goers, and one of the biggest things I always get asked when people find out I go to the cons is, what do you dress up as? Well, if you've gone to some of these big cons, you know this is not like Halloween quality costumes and stuff like that. Cosplayers take this very serious, and today we have an amazing, amazing cosplayer. Sara Moni is with us in the Dabble Den today.
Woo, hey, it's good to be in the den.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're super excited to talk cosplay. I don't think I know cosplay is a little. Me and Danny don't really cosplay, but I certainly respect. And then it's one of my favorite line-sitting things to do at the con is watch the amazing cosplayers go by. And I actually found you. For the fans out there, Moose, that was on our anime episode, is our big cosplayer in our group, and I looked on his Instagram to see what cosplayers he follows, and you're one of his favorite cosplayers, so that's the reason I reached out to you. So shout out to Moose.
This is for you, Moose.
So, Sara, we'll probably go and get started. I wanted to show everybody some of your amazing work, and you can like highlight and tell us what it took and then what this entailed.
Yeah, sure. Let's see, what are we looking at? Oh, we are looking at White Tiger. Oh my goodness. So this costume was, this is probably the warmest costume that I own. So I look at it with admiration and fear because I'm in Phoenix, as some of you may know, and it gets pretty toasty. This photo shoot was taken about 2 a.m. downtown because we had to find a time where there were no people around and when the sun was down. Otherwise, I would literally die. Superpower's gone. It's all over. So we go. It's just me and my friend Alex is the photographer and his assistant. We're like down these like back alleys at 2 in the morning. I'm like, this is so in character. I'm so ready. I'm gonna fight. I'm like secretly, and I'm like, if someone comes around the corner, I'm going to freak out. But inside, I'm so pumped. And I'm like, oh yes, I am.
You didn't stop a mugging or anything?
No one's purse got snatched. I was really.
Yeah, the next time I'm in Sun City, I just got to start wandering around Phoenix downtown and kind of seeing if anybody else is walking around in the middle of the night like this.
Well, if you're in Sun City, like it's classically like a retirement community, so I feel like Aunt May would definitely be in trouble.
Yes.
Like someone didn't take her Joanne coupons. But yeah, that was a fun one. Now we're looking at Megan. Not say a well-known character, but it's fun because I get to get into why I like these characters, and you get to talk about an obscure character. If you're cosplaying someone like, Captain America or Spider-Man, whoever, it's like, okay, people know what you're about, but people were like, oh, so you're like an elf person? And I'm like, well, no, let's talk about obscure X-Men. That's my favorite thing. This costume in itself, though, was made 3 times before I got it right. It was a disaster because how you're putting together, these are 2 different types of fabrics. The black is like a really thin matte vinyl, and the green is spandex. I didn't want to use spandex, but it was the only material that I could find that had that like rich, vibrant green that Davis used in her design. So putting those together, then putting it on, these patterns are all over the place. So I'm like, okay, how it is designed may not be how it fits when it is on you. So it was a labor of love to get the design right and to get the clear straps, because it doesn't make sense for a bodysuit to be like secure and fitted, but then just like open in the shoulder. It's like, well, how is this,
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. No, that one's amazing. And then we're all X-Men fans, so a deep cut on X-Men is always going to be deeply appreciated.
Yes.
Now, how often are people able to identify that? Are when the more obscure characters? Every now and then, are people like, yes?
When it happens, people are super psyched, and then that's
for sure.
It's definitely not common, or people just do something else, and they're like, I wouldn't say she's obscure, not an X-Men, but I was in my Ultimate Wasp, and it's always little girls that, Tinkerbell! Yes, I am Tinkerbell. I'm so glad that you're there. Yes.
If Tinkerman was an X-Men.
Yeah, it's fine. You know, never mind Pixie or any other else, but I'm like, no, little girl, whatever you say, yes.
That's what it is. There you go.
Well, it's cool too because you can bring some of those more obscure characters to the limelight, right? Because you have enough followers to where they're like, okay, I see Storm, that's cool, I understand that. Captain America, cool. Wait, who is that? I gotta go to Wikipedia now. Hang on, who are these characters?
Yeah, it's fun being the gateway drug. I'm like, so Gamora is what brought you here, but Omega Sentinel is why you stay.
There you go.
Storm was fun. This particular version, the punk rock version, was made out of practicality. This was my first time going to C2E2 in Chicago. It was the last con of this year, so it has some specialty to me because this happened. It was the end of February, and I needed something that was both warm and that could go on a plane. And
C2E2 is a big place for cosplay too. Like that's when some of the biggest championships are held. Isn't that right? Yeah,
they have a great cosplay scene. Everyone was very welcoming. Just a good environment. I'd love to go back next year. Again, the struggle is what can go on a plane and what's going to keep you warm. Especially for me, I'm a total wiener because I'm like, is it 75? Let me get my coat. I'm freezing. The reptile blood. So I was like, this kept me warm, and it was fun to play up this version of Storm. People were really responding well to it. You know, anytime you do a character that's well known, and if you can go, with the contacts, people really respond to body paint and contacts, just because it's something that not everyone can wear.
Right.
I wear contacts regularly, so I'm super, super blind. So it's no problem for me wearing the special effects lenses, and I'm used to body paint, so it's fine. But people have different skin types, and sometimes you just physically can't do some of these things. Latex allergies, people that have allergies to like spirit gum can't really do the same type of prosthetics as others. So it's always nice to be able to do these things and still be pretty comfortable.
Oh, another X-Men.
Polaris.
Yeah.
Seeing a trend here.
Yeah. I have so many acrylics, X buckles in my craft room. It's not even funny. This is the X Factor. This is the second version that I've done. The first was the long sleeve suit, most commonly seen in the animated series, which she had a couple episodes with her crazy relationship with Bobby.
Have you ever run into a Havoc while wearing this?
No.
Oh.
But I did make a gender bent Havoc once upon a time.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was I should have put that up there. I should have done like couples. Had I been thinking about it, but my Havoc suit was like a really short blonde spiky wig, and instead of the crazy full-on head sock, it was like a version like Polaris's and a more feminine design. The like chest piece design, to channel his energy. That was actually made with reflective fabric, like industrial reflective fabric. So whenever anyone wanted a picture, I would ask them to turn the flash on, and it would just blow out everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that was probably a memory maker for their camera, their photos they got.
When you designed that, did you have that in mind, that effect was going to happen, or it was just a interesting result of it being designed that way?
Yeah, because the suit in itself, it's just a a black bodysuit, and so it's like
Yeah.
each costume for me, it needs a reason to be made, and that one is, let's play around with something that may not be so design wow interesting in and of itself, but in pictures there's an interaction that you get, and then the cool effect that isn't photoshopped, and that happens just with light.
That's awesome.
Fun one. Oh, okay, this one is one of my more recents, Jessica Cruz, and I think the only DC costume that I put on here. I tried to do a little bit of a variety, but it ended up being very X-Men heavy. Jessica Cruz is nice just because Latina representation is always exciting, and being able to showcase that. I like the lanterns. I like any grouping of characters that have like matching elements, and they all have an ethos. So it's like they all have a color, they all have a motto, the symbols on the power rings, things like that.
Yeah.
Did you like your power ring with a? Did you make that one, or is that one you acquired?
No, this was one of the ones that DC released a couple years ago. It was like a promotional. They're just like plastic, whatever rings, but just hit it with a little Sharpie. But it's the perfect companion piece, just because it's big enough and clunky enough, because it shows up in pictures. Some of the other ones, they either don't fit over the gloves just because they're metal and they're like a nicer quality to wear. It's just fun comic jewelry. But the lightweight plastic is the most practical option over the gloves.
That's so cool.
Gloves, yeah, it's a weird thing to try and balance what I want to do that's canon and what's also practical and feasible, just because some things in a 2D design just don't make sense in a realistic translation. Megan's suit was another one that was a challenge, like I said, because it's just there and clothes just stay. But it's a comfortable costume, stiletto boots aside. Yeah, I like to wear. A fun future project that I have, I didn't include him, but I also cosplay Sinestro. And
Ooh.
I wanted to do a side-by-side at war with myself photo shoot at one point.
I saw that one's up on your Instagram, right? The Sinestro. Yeah, that one's amazing.
Thanks.
And then,
it's a lot of fun to do the gender translations.
and so is this one your most popular?
Gam. Yeah. It's again a combination of the body paint, and I think I was one of the first people to do when Volume 1 came out. I was one of the first people to do a screen accurate as much as possible version in 2014. And I was making the costume to do a movie premiere. So I'm making a costume that was pretty complicated and very PC, especially the Volume 1, with lots of panels and different materials. And again, the movie had not come out yet. So the reference pictures were super hard to come by, and half of the costume, mainly the back, came from toys.
Oh wow!
Merchandise.
That was your reference material. Nice.
That was it.
Well, I hope it was all accurate.
Yeah, they were pretty accurate. Hot Toys especially, since they specialize in those details.
Yeah.
Accuracy.
No, all of those are phenomenal. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
how long does the planning go into making any one specific design? I know they're all different on their own, but how long does it, the planning, gathering the materials, what's the longest that you've had to go and set up a costume design?
That's a good question. They don't take a crazy amount of time. Once I've become set in a design, and once I want to make something, the rest comes pretty easy. I'd say the longest part of the process is creating something that's original, or creating something, really just the design elements of how something's going to work and be comfortable to be in all day, and wearability. Every costume that I've made to date, I still have, and is still functioning and good to go.
And do you have a background in fashion as well to be able to put all these things together?
Yeah, I model, and I do some design work for some of the stuff that I've modeled. So that's nice. Everything from like T-shirts to modifying existing clothes that I have. I have a whole drawer of things that are just stuff that I ordered that either was the wrong size or didn't fit quite right, wrong color, something weird. And with the fabric that I have in costuming, I'm able to kind of Frankenstein some stuff up to fit how I want, and get a new design. So it definitely helps having a fashion background.
So something I noticed and looking at, like, not just the ones here, and everybody, make sure you check Sara out on Instagram, and then amazing work was, and I think you mentioned a couple of times, the functionality of stuff. So just from hearing you talk a little bit, it seems like you're obviously a fan of all these characters, and the way it looks like your cosplay, it seems like you put a thought in the mind of, are you actually walking around these conventions and enjoying stuff, or because it looks like you design a lot of your stuff so you can move around, get on a plane, that. So what's your big thing at the conventions that you do?
Seeing friends is great. It's always great to have the camaraderie of sharing, like, oh, how is that build coming along? Or, oh, this is what I got to see pictures of, and now I get to see it in person. Wow, this looks amazing. You did a great job. Or how did you do this? And exchanging tips and ideas outside of just, having fun and meeting up with friends. Photo shoots are always nice, because at the end of the day, if you don't have pictures, it's one of those types of art that you have to have images of to see. It's not like you can be a writer and have like, oh, well, here's a PDF of all of my poetry, or an artist just like scan art and send it out. It's okay, it needs to be on and worn, and cosplay is performative. Like this picture of Gamora, I'm not going to be like, hey guys, Mom, hey, like it is costume play, and that type of immersion is what really sells it for a lot of people, myself included. That goes beyond, like what you were saying earlier, just putting on a costume for a party, special occasion, whatever the case may be. It's theatrical. It's fun to put a little drama in it.
That's awesome. So for folks that are in the den now that aren't cosplayers but have thought about doing it or interested in it, like, how did you get into cosplay? And I guess what tips could you give folks that are wanting to start doing cosplay, go beyond that, like you said, Halloween costume thing, but go to a convention and really show off some skills?
I think I couldn't quite hear the last bit.
Oh, so basically, how did you get into cosplay, and then what advice would you give to folks that are interested in getting into cosplay?
Oh, okay, perfect. First costume was it wasn't really a costume. It was something that an outfit that I deliberately put together, and it was my version of like a psychedelic Alice for my aunt who had a tea party. And I was like, well, wouldn't it be fun if we all did costumes and make it like a Mad Hatter type theme? So using that, having a springboard for an event, a catalyst to get started would be my suggestion for people who are interested. Finding the right environment is is a big part of why costuming is so huge and why it's grown so much. Like I said, it's like you go to meet other creators and other crafters, and then they become your friends. So now it's going beyond, oh, we like all of these same things. It's like, oh, I'm here to see so and so, and creating that type of community. Oh, have you seen their work? Have you seen this? And it's just this like branch of connectivity. So having that type of base, I think, will definitely help that immersion for people that are just looking to get in. And costuming may not be your thing. You might be a prop maker, and you might find that creating items versus, clothing or costumes are more your thing. You might be just a special effects person. You might just like doing makeup. You might just like doing wigs or photography. So there's lots of different facets that you can get in and kind of fall in with both feet with the costuming community. We're a very fun bunch.
Yeah, it's awesome. You brought up, when you think about, when you watch somebody walk through a convention hall and you see all the stuff they're wearing, it could be just the costume, but all the makeup, the hair, the accessories they have, where you kind of say, wow, they did all of that. That's amazing. And I'm sure you have an entire team that comes in with you to take, obviously to take photography, get everything ready for you. It's something you don't really think about when you're sitting there looking on the outside in going, man, how could I ever do all of this at one time?
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. I would also risk against like burnout. Like if you feel like overwhelmed, if it's too much, you can always take a step back and just get into just hone one facet. For a lot of people on the outside looking in, like, oh, I love what you do, but it's so much, and they're overwhelmed before they even start. So I suggest like, oh, just do a casual version. Play around with design elements, so like colors and things. A lot of people will mention Disney bounding, and it's something that can kind of ease your mind into like wrapping around that creative state of embodying an entire character. To have the looks for some of these things, I'll see people in suits or like ball gowns. It's like if you're wearing this massive like hoop skirt, and everywhere you go, you need to stop because you feel like you're walking like the Liberty Bell, and people need to go by, and like it is a hassle to wear some of these things. So your commitment as to like how hard you want to go and how uncomfortable or inconvenient the costume is, they always need to be a little lopsided for that vision to come through.
So it looks like you put a lot of effort into, I'm still going to make sure I enjoy the con, not like be stranded with, like you said, this Liberty Bell costume.
Yeah, there's definitely a goal for every con or every day of the con. And I think everybody knows the hierarchy. Your Thursday, Friday is like your chiller day. Saturday is like, all right, showtime. You come out like Beetlejuice, like, yeah, showtime, you're ready, I'm hyped up. And then Sunday, depending on the con, is usually like the family day. So that's like a lot of kids. All right, what's going to be exciting for them to see? And, still second tier for costumes. What days and what times are best for groups too. A group costume on a Saturday is a recipe for disaster potentially. If everyone in your group is not on board with, we're going to show up and stand in one place for 5 hours.
Oh.
Is everyone okay with that?
So I get why a lot of people get into it. They want to go and show off their fandom. Like, this is what I like. This is what I want to really show and express to the world. But I want to know one thing. What does the competitive cosplay scene look like? Because I know that there are some people in the competitive realm that they live, die, breathe, and they want to be number one. And so what is that drive? Where does that come from? And are they nice individuals, or is it cutthroat?
Well, I don't do it. I do know some people that do, and it's, I'd say, pretty polarizing. There are people that are, you hear those stories of, like a very like evil stepmother type mentality of that end of the spectrum, and people that I know that compete that are it's very personal for them, and it's they want to be their best versus being the best, if that makes sense. And the drive of all of this time and effort, research that goes into these costumes. Some of these builds can take a year, 2 years, and to get that type of recognition from the community that you're a part of is very validating and very exciting. So it can be very rewarding, and it can be very toxic. But that's, look at sports teams, look at sports fans. There are, ends of the spectrum with every sort of club, hobby, involvement. But overall, it's a good motivation, I would say, overall. But, having a positive circle of friends definitely keeps you on the right track.
And are there local groups, like in different communities, that do have cosplay communities where you guys can go in and discuss what you're trying to go in and do, or get a theme going, or is it just really networking and finding the right groups online?
I'd say it depends on where you are. For people that live out in rural areas, it's your options are kind of limited, and you're forced into a more online community just by default, versus if you have people locally that are into the same things, it's it's pretty easy to meet up. Now we're in a very unique situation where everyone's kind of in a virtual landscape, and I think it's a testament of how close most cosplayers are and how we operate, and still motivating each other even though things aren't functioning as normal, and all of those events that we were looking forward to now either aren't happening or are a year away. And when your friends and I guess you could say like colleagues, people that you follow, peers, you can connect with them on a different level that isn't always interrupted by, oh, hey, can I take a picture? Oh, well, hang on. Well, my panel's starting right now. Well, hey, and you have 800 things happening. So to find the silver lining in the era of coronavirus, it is connection and more time to have conversations that aren't impeded by other outside forces interrupting that.
Well, since you brought up COVID, so assuming eventually we get conventions back, can you give us any hints or ideas of some cosplays you're working on now that you're looking forward to showing off soon, if we ever get back to conventions?
Yeah, if we ever, I'm really hoping we do. Arizona, I'm talking to you. Get your act together. Wear a mask. Stop embarrassing me. It's hard to find inspiration and motivation right now because there is nothing to look forward to in the immediate future. But I do have a set of costumes that I've made from like 2013, 2014 that I still really like, that are going to be remade with 2020's skill set. One of them, I will say, was mentioned earlier, Havoc. So Havoc will get a facelift and come back hopefully soon. I think I have about 4 that are going to be remade. I did finish one recently in the quarantines, and that was the Jubilee, the Gen X version, her current Gen X suit. And that was finished just last month. So I did one, and I did a photo shoot against all better judgment, a full black bodysuit with a vinyl trench coat in summer. And
especially what time of the year is it in Phoenix?
It's fall time. So as I entered the 7th circle, when I left, I immediately melted. I took pictures for, I think it was just under 10 minutes, and I was already just like dying inside.
Wow.
But I got the pictures.
Dedication right there.
So it's like, okay. And other people look at me and just be like, you're nuts. Fair enough. Fair enough. But the pictures are out there.
Well, Sarah, we're about out of time. Before we go, is there any shout outs you want to give to anybody, or you want to let everybody know where they can find you online?
For anyone who's cosplaying for the first time, they're just my favorite because there's a certain energy that you can get from people that you can tell. It's like, okay, right? And there's that purity that you can just see just like radiating from them. This is awesome to see. So I can get caught up in, you know, so-and-so's bomb armor and this wig that is 10 stories tall, and a lot of these amazing artists that create these crafts. But it's the emotion that gets me. If you want to see what I'm doing, Instagram is where I'm most active, and that is in the scroll down here. Sara Moni cosplay. I'm pretty active with comments too, so if you have questions or if you want to tag me in something, again, the community is super important and it can inspire all of us. President calling. I would say that my closing message is to just keep inspiring each other, be excellent to each other, as our forefathers told us to do.
Well, thanks so much. It's awesome to have you, and I'll make one last pitch. If you need some ideas, I can give you some deep cut. You see, I'm a Captain America fan. Some old 70s and 80s Captain America villains that would be amazing that nobody else will ever be doing. Yes. Thanks for joining us in the Dabble Den. It was awesome. Danny, it was good seeing you guys again.
See you guys.
All right, Tor. Thank you, Sara Moni.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next episode.